very much. Hello, everyone. So happy and glad to be here and see you all. So I was just thinking a little bit, and I brought with me something here. I'm going to drink that just after the talk, so I can drink my sorrows. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and the Mobile Era conference is one of my absolute favorites. It's really fun to be here, and yeah, I was here the other times before, and it's been really great. So yeah, I hope you've had lots of fun, and so far. I'm here to talk about Azure Cosmos DB, and you know, in lightning talk, you have to kind of be, you try to kind of inspire as quick as possible, right? So I'm not going to show you some technical details here. I'm not going to show you some code and all that, because I want to kind of try and inspire you through the short time that I have. So, so yes, let's get to it. So just a little bit about myself. So I'm Sirar. I'm kind of pretty active in the community in Oslo. Lately I've done lots of stuff for Azure technologies. How many of you work with Azure today? Okay, not so many people. That's yeah. Okay, so about 10% or so in the room. so yeah. So let's see how we feel about this after this presentation. But in any case, you know, like Azure is, yeah, it's Microsoft's big baby now, right? It's really being used everywhere and so on. So it's really interesting. And yeah, as you can see, I like cats as well. That's why I have a cat video there. So Azure Cosmos DB. So not many people work with Azure here in the room, as I just saw. So have you heard of Azure Cosmos DB before? Okay, so we have like 4 people have heard about Azure Cosmos DB. That's really cool, because it means that you want to kind of get an insight of what it's all about, right? Yeah, that's really cool. So Azure Cosmos DB. So Azure Cosmos DB is really Microsoft's Ferrari, you could say. This technology, this is something that they have been working on for years, actually. It's just being kind of, you know, just let's take a look at the timeline here, for instance. And all the way back to 2010, they started working on something called Project Florence, right? Which was to be Azure Cosmos DB in the future. So they started with Project Florence in 2010, and they worked on it like tirelessly. They worked on it. They used lots of resources on it. And in 2014, they released Azure Document DB, which was also which is basically a document database with blobs and everything, and which really got popular when it was released. But later on, they just built on Document DB. That's what they did basically. They iterated on Document DB, and then some years later, we got Azure Cosmos DB, which was in 2017, last year. That was the kind of like the time that Cosmos DB was introduced by Microsoft. And it's really pretty interesting because, as I mentioned, this is something that they have worked on for quite some time. It's not something that they did overnight. It's something that they have been, you know, doing lots of research on and using lots of money on it, right? And they have, like, you know, Microsoft, they're pretty powerful, and they're pretty rich. so they've used lots of resources on building this technology, and you know, they did lots of, you know, like decades of research, and lots of engineering work had to be done to get to where we are today with Cosmos DB. But basically, so what's the fuss is all about, right? So Dharma Shukla, he's the founder of Cosmos DB. He works at Microsoft, and he said that, you know, there are 3 principal properties of the cloud. It's global distribution, elastic scalability, and fine-grained multi-tenancy. So what this means basically is that you want to have, when you want to work with a database in the cloud, you want something which is decentralized and distributed throughout various different locations for optimal availability, right? So, and you want something which is really scalable, right? So that it would be easy to scale your database when you work with a system, right? When you build your system will get bigger over time, and you want good scalability. And also the multi-tenancy thing is that basically you want to have a distributed network where you can always fetch your data anywhere in the world, right? So that was kind of the vision of the founder of Cosmos DB. And this was one of the goals here with Cosmos DB. And that's pretty impressive, right? 99.999% right on read availability. That's a pretty impressive goal. This is what they wanted to reach with Cosmos DB. And they wanted it to be available everywhere around the world. And that's really interesting. So if we kind of take a look at the topology of the whole thing, you'll see here that, like we have planet Earth. This is where we live, everyone, today. And then we have the Azure regions, right, throughout the globe. Now, not many people work with Azure in the room here, so this is actually great to kind of talk about. So Azure is kind of distributed throughout multiple data centers throughout the world. And the latest news now in recent time is that they have just opened 2 data centers in Norway, west and east, right? That's really cool. So, and that will make it even better, make things even better. So, and then we have data centers, then we have things called stamps. This is just kind of like domain-specific language here with stamps, fault domains and clusters. Then we get to the machines, and then we have replicas of the machines, and then finally we get to the Cosmos database engine. This is kind of like how the whole thing looks like. So basically, with Cosmos DB, you have a really impressive scaling of resources, right? You no longer need to think about things like memory issues or processor issues, so things like that. You have everything available to you, and it's really impressive to look at. You have like under 10 millisecond reads and under 15 millisecond writes. And everything is in the cloud, so it's really impressive, basically impressive stuff. And they have something called request units per second. This is basically the time it takes to fetch something right from the cloud through using REST, for instance. Like fetching one document takes 1 RUS, and so on. This is just some data. And with Cosmos DB, you have a really easy way to tune your space, right? You can always increase storage, decrease storage very easily. Probably the only kind of like negative thing there is that it costs a lot. Cosmos DB costs a lot, and the more storage you want, the more money it will cost. So you kind of get what you pay for. This is probably the only negative thing about it. And there's a really impressive consistency rate with Cosmos DB, with 4 different levels of consistency here, as you can see here. Not going to dive into those, but these are kind of these are really great for the consistency-wise. And in 2016, they introduced automatic partitioning. So what this means basically is that you have like different partition collections throughout different areas. And this makes it really easy to spread your data throughout different areas around the world. And the availability rate also increased in 2016. And also it has automatic indexing, which means that it's really easy to kind of search your database. It's really fast searches, and so it's really impressive. Now, let's say behind the wheels we have there is a JavaScript engine actually behind the wheels. And this is really interesting, especially for everyone here, for all of us here at Mobile Era, because we have JavaScript in the picture here as well. And I'll get to that in the next slides and talk about what this means for the front-end world, for instance, and the mobile world. Now, this JavaScript engine has lots of features, like there are stored procedures, triggers, and these user-defined functions, which we call here. And these are kind of like, they make up for the limited SQL support. Because the thing is that, how many of you have worked with SQL? Yeah, it's full room, yeah. So there's limited SQL support with Cosmos DB. That's another negative here. I'll get back into that. So let's look at the kind of like supported environments, right? How we want to use Cosmos DB. Where can we use it? How can we use it? So there are 2 ways you can use it. You can use SDKs. So for instance, in .NET Core, Java, Python, MongoDB. MongoDB is interesting because you can kind of like talk to Cosmos DB from MongoDB. And it's like, for lots of cases this is relevant, and it's kind of useful to do that. But you can have SDKs to kind of work with Cosmos DB with this area here. And then we have the REST API area here, which is probably the most interesting, because then we can work with the REST, and then we don't need to think about any technology, basically. We just communicate through the APIs that Microsoft provides, and we can work with Cosmos DB independently of any technology, right? Okay, so how do we query the database, right? How does that work? So there is it's a language that looks like SQL that uses JSON, which is really cool. And then we have Link, which is, Link comes from the .NET world. How many of you work with .NET, by the way? Okay, so we have like maybe 30% or so. So Link is really a great language in the .NET world, which we can use to kind of go from code down to the database, right? Then we can use code syntax, right? So C#, for example. So you can use Link. And also there are integrated queries with JavaScript. And this is really interesting for us. If we want to work with front-end and mobile, we can use that. Then we have this, MongoDB query language, which we can use to kind of get to Cosmos DB. I'm not sure why they made something for MongoDB specifically. Not sure about that, but this is possible to do, at least. And then there are other features, such as there's an integration with Azure Blob Storage, which is also interesting. So there's blob storage and table storage as well, which can be used. So people kind of like before Cosmos DB came out, we used table storage probably, and we used blob storage before we got Cosmos DB. So yeah, and then there is really interesting like geolocation support for geographical information. This is really interesting, especially for mobile users, right? If you want to, mobile users are on the go. They always talk about locations, and all that. That's really, you can do that with Cosmos DB. There's really great support for that. Okay, so let's take a look at some real-world use cases. So, just to show you how immersive Cosmos DB is. So Microsoft themselves, they use Cosmos DB in their own products. So for instance, there's Office, Active Directory, Xbox, even Xbox. That's pretty cool. MSN here, Skype. All of those products use Cosmos DB behind the scenes. So I think that says something about the kind of like how good this technology is, basically. Okay, so I've talked about how great Cosmos DB is. Let's look at about negative sides, right? How about the limitations, right? So today there's, the Cosmos DB has backup procedures, but there is like limited durations. So it means that if you have backups, you have like limited times that you can have with your backup. So there's something like 8 hours or something, 8 hours that you can have 2 backups, and then after those 8 hours, then you can't have this backup anymore. There are limitations like that, which are out there, which is not so good. And Link that I mentioned earlier, it's not really supported 100%. It's supported, but there are some things that are still missing that can't be used with Link, for example. There's also limited SQL support, as I mentioned earlier. So there are like basic things like joins or aggregation or group by and all that. You don't have that when you do the queries to Cosmos DB, and that's not a good thing. That's not really great. Yeah. So and then like there is the kind of like the structure of the database has ID attribute, right? Which is very common, but the ID attribute is not indexed. That's not great because then we can't do efficient searches and all that. So that's not really good. Also, there is only support for JSON. That could be a good thing also, not necessarily a bad thing, because who doesn't like JSON actually today? So yeah. Okay. So what about like Cosmos DB in the mobile world, right? So it's really a great choice for mobile apps development. I definitely recommend using it in your applications. This global distribution makes things really great when it comes to kind of data sharing and all that, and making data accessible. And the geospatial stuff is really great because we know that like location and all that is really important for the end users when they use their mobile phones and all that. So definitely go for it. Use it in your applications. Okay, so what about the way forward for this technology? I mean, Cosmos DB is really setting the way for NoSQL, right? For NoSQL world, and I think that's really great. I mean, things are getting good, and Microsoft has really invested a lot in this technology, and they're going to continue to do so. This is something that they have kind of invested everything on, so it's definitely supported very well. So it's definitely the future, I would say. Of course, this is like, it's like stating the obvious, but like having cloud-based database solutions is really the way forward. If you can do it at the client side, it's not always easy to kind of convince the clients that you want to have things on the cloud. But this is definitely going to be the norm moving forward. So that is pretty much it. I hope that there wasn't lots of information here at once, but thank you so much, and please follow me on Twitter.